Tonight's episode of Legacy Battle is brought to you by Atlas Benefits.
Atlas Benefits has solutions for your insurance needs. Atlas Benefits can help you obtain Medicare, health, or life insurance and employee benefits. You can find them on the web at www.atlasbenefits.com.
Or you can contact Rob Ducey or Roy Smith at 727-600-2892 and mention Legacy Battle Podcast. Atlas Benefits has all the solutions for your insurance needs. Enjoy the show. This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on that now too. Hit that subscribe button. I'm Michael Adams, curator of Legacy Battle. My panelists tonight from Arsenal FC out of Pittsburgh, we got Kevin Adams. And we're joined by a special guest tonight. He's a current professional soccer forward. He's played for 12 years with Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Wilmington, had a loan to Vancouver, Cincinnati, St. Louis, Louisville, and currently with the hometown Tampa Bay Rowdies here. He's got 81 career goals coming into the 2022 season. Check out his YouTube channel. You can see some of his just phenomenal plays that he's made in his career. I'll be putting clips, of course, on as well during our Q&A. So from your Tampa Bay Rowdies, we got Greig here. Kyle, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I'm happy to be on here with you guys. Thanks for making the time.
It's awesome. We're excited to do this. Will be our third soccer show, so we're excited to do that. Tonight's debate is just going to be the greatest U.S. born forward / midfielder, and we're going to start this out with Landon Donovan.
What a legend.
Household name. I mean, you talk about U.S. Soccer. How could you not mention Donovan's name? He holds numerous MLS records and records for the men's national team. He was regarded as the greatest U.S. men's soccer player of all time. He was voted the best U.S. soccer player of all time by a poll conducted by ESPN, and MLS have him ranked as the greatest American soccer player of all time. He signed with Bayer 04 in 1999. 2005, he went on loan with the San Jose Earthquakes of MLS, but he would move back to the United States permanently and play for Los Angeles Galaxy. He would later go on back to Germany on loan to Bayern Munich. He played a short time in Everton. He retired in 2014, but then made another comeback in 2016 with the LA Galaxy again. This is a very versatile player. He was known for his quickness, his goal-scoring ability, very versatile, known for his pace and stamina, as well as his intelligence and technical skill. Longtime international and club manager Bruce Arena, who was the manager for the men's national team for quite a bit, was quoted saying, "The problem with Landon is that he's your best player at so many positions that you never know where to put him." He has a record 6 MLS Cups and is the league's all-time assist leader with 136. The MLS MVP award was actually renamed the Landon Donovan MVP award in his honor. He's the all-time leader in assists and tied with Clint Dempsey as the all-time leader in scoring. He's the second most capped player for his country. He played 157 games for U.S. and scored 57 goals. He's the first American player to reach 50 goals and 50 assists. He is a 4-time winner of the U.S. Soccer Athlete of the Year award. He's the only man to do so and the first man to win it in consecutive years, as well as the only 7-time winner of the Honda Player of the Year award. He starred in the U.S. team that reached the quarterfinals in 2002 at the World Cup and received the Best Young Player award there. His 3 goals in 2010 is what put him the highest scoring male American player in World Cup history. One of 3 American players to score more than one World Cup. He did that. So did Brian McBride and Clint Dempsey, who Mike's going to represent here shortly. But he also played midfield, where he could benefit the team with his playmaking ability, his passing vision, his defensive play. He served as first choice for penalty kicker If you needed a guy to hit that shot from outside the box, you're going to Donovan. This man can make the plays. He could score. He is U.S. soccer.
So before I come to you, Kyle, I should point out this is U.S. men's because we've done the women's show prior. Check that out in the archives. Mia Hamm won that one, not to give it away, but she did with Eintracht Frankfurt goalie Brianne Heberlin. But so Kyle, with Landon Donovan, he's obviously the biggest name in the United States as far as men's soccer goes. I don't think there's a lot of debate as far as him being the biggest name, but he's also scored the biggest goals in our country's history. I mean, what are your thoughts on him as a player? Did you notice any weaknesses to his game at all?
He's an interesting one for me. Like, obviously he's a legend. He's, somebody that I've, watched for basically ever since I started watching soccer, because, growing up, EPL, things like that weren't always as easily accessible as they are now, and so being able to watch Landon in the World Cups and, back in the MLS days, I don't even know what channel it would have been on when I was growing up, but, he's just somebody that you just remember seeing, like he was the face of U.S. soccer and in the MLS specifically because, he was already back in the MLS by the time I was really interested in watching soccer. And so, yeah, it's just, he's somebody that I've always, remember watching both on the men's national team stage and the MLS stage as well. And I would say like the only thing I can't think of a weakness, but like he always just seemed like so calm and like there was just, you never really, you did see a couple throughout his career, that you can see on highlights and stuff, but he seemed very like level-headed and you didn't really see like an arrogance about him or anything like that. So for a player to kind of make their stamp so much on any country's soccer landscape, it was pretty cool to me to see somebody that was pretty calm, pretty level-headed, not arrogant, not like a Zlatan, type of personality, especially these days. You're seeing that a lot more with players, I feel like, is kind of an attitude thing. So I know that's not a weakness, but that's just something that I thought of and observed kind of as you guys were talking about those stats and me kind of reflecting about, what my memories are of him playing in the MLS specifically.
So the only, I guess we'd say maybe knock on him is that he never did play in the EPL and the European leagues. Do you think he had the talent to do that? I mean, they say he wanted to stay here in America, but I mean, the money, let's be honest, the money is over in Europe.
Yeah, he did have those short spells over in Europe. I remember in college we went over and we were watching an Everton game. So I saw Tim Howard playing for Everton, and that was like weeks before Landon went over. So I was like super bummed because they had announced that, that he was going over there. But yeah, I mean, I think it would have been different. I think potentially the U.S. soccer landscape would have been a different story if a player like Landon didn't stick around in the MLS for so long, so I think I wouldn't knock him. I know there was probably opportunities and more money and things like that, but I do think him making the choice to kind of stick around, help the soccer, landscape, help the soccer, world grow in this country because, everybody saw him on the stage of the World Cups and then also playing domestically. It was pretty special.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Clint Dempsey, and I got Clint here tonight. So 2022 National Soccer Hall of Famer. So just went in. Congratulations to him on that. Played forward and midfielder. Played from 2004 to 2018 with New England, Fulham, Tottenham, and his final 6 years were in Seattle up there in the MLS. He's got a total of 409 appearances, scoring 129 goals. Internationally, he was on the U.S. under-20 team, and check this out. He scored 21 goals. That's incredible in 13 appearances. That is a lot of goals. That's like Kevin numbers back in the day there. So from 04 to 17, he repped U.S. National team. He scored 57 goals in 141 appearances. And that is, of course, tied first all time with Landon Donovan. I think Kevin kind of mentioned that. He's 2004 MLS Rookie of the Year. He's got an MLS Cup, a FIBA Confederation Cup, Gold Cup top scorer, U.S. Soccer Athlete of the Year 3 times, and 4-time MLS All-Star. So he's got all those accolades on him. He was versatile as well. He can play several positions. He excelled at scoring with his head. So if you watch a lot of his stuff, he scored a lot of goals with his head. He wasn't afraid to get physical. Unfortunately, his physicality sometimes went a little too far, led to some suspensions here and there throughout his career. His biggest accolade, at least I consider his biggest accolade, was from 2011 to 2020. He was named to that International Federation of Football History Team of the Decade. So that's just a fantastic accomplishment to be put on that, especially being, American. That's always harder. Bleacher Report, World Soccer Source, they have Dempsey as being better than Donovan. So these guys are kind of like 1A, 1B here. But I give the edge, in my personal opinion, I give the edge to Dempsey over Donovan because he's got 7 years in the EPL. And we all know that the competition in the EPL was better than what it is over here in the States. We mentioned that in both of our other soccer shows as well. So that's just kind of my take on it. Kyle, before I even ask you about Clint, I mean, do you feel that the European leagues are better than skill level wise than the leagues here in the United States? Or have we caught up to them by now?
I think it's getting closer for sure. I still think there's a lot more talent there, and the best players in the world are going to those leagues, specifically in England. So I do think it's a better league for sure. I agree with you there, but I do think the MLS is getting a little bit closer. And I think as you see, players come over and they give kind of their testimonies of, what their experience is like in the MLS, versus the perception of Europeans or other players across the world of the MLS becoming a retirement league, or, that it's easy when they come over here. I think when those players come over and they give their testimony, they're like, no, this league's serious. This league's competitive, athletic. The football is getting better. So I do think the APL is ahead of the game still for sure. But I think the U.S. is on the right track as far as the standard raising in the MLS.
So with Dempsey, like I said, he could score with his head quite a bit. He's a very acrobatic type player, and I mentioned his I guess attitude could get him into some trouble. What were your thoughts on him as a player, and did he take things too far in your opinion sometimes?
So, my comments on Landon being kind of more level-headed with, a couple moments that stick out of him, things getting heated and things like that. Whereas, I always saw Clint Dempsey as a player with some swagger, with some bite to him. Didn't care what people thought, didn't care who he was going against. He would, go face-to-face with that person or get stuck in or whatever he needed to do. But I thought that's what made him a better player, is like having that fire lit underneath him. Whereas Landon, I felt like maybe if he let, his emotions get caught in him, then he would have, not been as good of a player, in that moment. I think there's different players like that that you see all over is what motivates them and what keeps them focused and things like that. I think some players, get distracted from, the simple things if they let their emotions take over. But I felt like Clint's game elevated when he was fired up, and you saw it in, the World Cups and, with the red cards and whatever it was in whatever league he was playing in too, so, and he was a guy who was playing, a lot of games for Fulham and other teams in the EPL. And so he didn't, he was playing against some of the best players at the time in the world. So he wasn't going to back down from anybody. So he was somebody that I really, really enjoyed watching, who I didn't feel like I said, he didn't care, but he also had this kind of just Texas boy vibe about him where he didn't care what people really thought about him off the field either. He kind of just said what he wanted and just stuck to kind of who he was, which I have a lot of respect for. But yeah, my memories of Clint, especially in the EPL, and then also when he came back to Seattle, he was like so fun to watch. And, you know, my favorite partnership in the MLS was him and Obafemi Martins. Was just like ridiculous for how many goals that they scored, you know, they combined for, and each of them had while they were playing together. So that was a fun pair to watch for sure.
Kevin, let me ask you, because you were, let's say, a temperamental player in all your sports. That's the nicest way of putting it. You know, you've mentioned it, I think when we were doing a hockey show one time, that it can really hurt your team to be suspended out there. Your best player's leaving on a red card because he's getting kicked out. I mean, what's that do for the psyche of the rest of your team? Because it's really got to hurt you.
It is going to hurt you. And prime example, I was a starting center, assistant captain, leading scorer of my ice hockey team my senior year. I took a 2 and a 10-minute penalty and missed the whole third period. We lost the lead and lost the playoff game and got booted from the playoffs. It definitely messes with, especially a player of that caliber, when you're the best player on the team and you get taken away and you're out and your team's playing down. Like, it messes with the mentality, it messes with the flow, the pace. Kyle, you mentioned, you know, Donovan was very calm and can control himself, which I think elevates Donovan over Dempsey because of that, because you're not going to lose Donovan to a stupid, hot-headed issue that's going to happen. Dempsey, he was known for that. Zinedine Zidane headbutted the dude in the finals of the World Cup, got the red card and was tossed. They lost. It's huge. When you're that caliber of a player, you need to keep your emotions in check because you're the leader of that team, and they can't afford to lose you off the field.
Kyle, as far as just representing Team USA, was there one that you felt might have been a little better between the two of them internationally on the World Cup stage?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to choose, just because I feel like both of them just represented, you know, the country and were, you know, focal points at their respective times. And with the national team, it's tough for me to choose. I think some of my biggest memories, though, because Donovan was able to play in so many different World Cups with the U.S., is Donovan having a bigger impact over Dempsey, you know, just because he was the guy. He was the, you know, United States men's national team soccer. You know, he was the face and scored big goals in the World Cup, you know. And so I feel like what sticks out to me is Donovan over Dempsey in that respect.
Okay.
Him playing with Beckham in LA, that was a nice little treat too. For 3 seasons, I think it was. Donovan and Beckham. That was pretty impressive over there.
That was. So let's go on to our final player for the debate, Carlos Reina. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, Claudio Reina, actually.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Claudio Reina.
So during Reina's 3 years, early on in high school, St. Benedict's Prep School, the team never lost. They went undefeated 65-0. He also became the only 2-time Parade Magazine Player of the Year and was named the Gatorade Player of the Year. So at the high school level, unbelievable. Then in college, he goes to the University of Virginia, and he leads the Cavs to 3 consecutive NCAA championships. So some great leadership there, too. He was captain of the team. 1994, he gets on the pro level. He joins the German Bundesliga club, and he quickly becomes their captain. So more leadership for this guy. In 1989, he goes on to the Scottish Premier League, Rangers. And the Rangers thought so highly of him that it was nearly $4 million that they paid in exchange to get his services for that team. So you're talking 1999, that's a lot more money, you know, than it is today. And then he ends up being the football Premier League Player of the Year in 2000. Then he joins Manchester City, and then for a little while, then the Red Bulls for a while as well until he finally retires. On the world stage, he was the captain for Team USA in the 2006 World Cup. So this guy was just all about leadership, and he was just a man. I mean, a great forward.
So Claudio was the guy I grew up on. I'm a little older than you, Kyle. just to throw that out there. But he was kind of, let's say, the first U.S. born forward that really became recognized, beyond some of the other players. I mean, Lexi Lawless was a defenseman. He was pretty big there. Was it Kobe Jones was pretty big there for a while too. But, what are your thoughts on Rainha as a player and just his leadership ability?
Yeah, great question. Claudio Reyna was somebody who, for me, talking about Dempsey, talking about Donovan, I kind of talked about my experience watching them kind of in MLS and on the world stage with the men's national team. It's funny because I wasn't watching Claudio Reyna at club football. It wasn't accessible for me growing up to watch him while he was playing overseas. And so the only time I saw him was with the national team. And I remember my earliest memories of watching the World Cup, doing sleepovers with my friends and waking up at 6 a.m. and trying to keep our eyes open, watching the U.S. play whoever, and being like, who are some of these guys? You knew Donovan, you knew some of these other players, but when you were watching some of these other guys, like who's Claudio Reyna? Oh, he's the captain. It was some of my earliest memories of watching U.S. men's national team was watching Claudio Reyna. And like you said, you attest, he wore that captain's armband for a reason, and he wore it for quite a while. And I didn't really know this, but you've educated me at the club level. He was highly sought after leader for these clubs, and wore the captain's armband there as well. So obviously a pivotal guy for many clubs, having lots of success everywhere he went, from like you said, the record he had in his high school team all the way up through Virginia, and then being the captain at these clubs. So yeah, I think one of the best aspects you can have in a player, and probably why he had so much success, was, yeah, he was a talented soccer player, but also he brought so much value with his leadership skills. And so I think that speaks volumes. And I think you could argue maybe the national team right now doesn't have that guy. They've kind of had these captains in these games and these qualifying matches and things like that. I think they do have great leaders, but and maybe things have changed where players maybe are naturally just more leaders as well. But he was boom, this is the captain back in those days of the World Cup. So it'd be interesting to see who's that next guy that's going to step up and really be the captain for the squad, and always wearing the armband and always leading. So really interesting facts about the leadership there.
Well, we got some shout outs tonight to players that just kind of missed our list. Brian McBride, Tav Ramos, Michael Bradley, and Eric Wynalda, who, gosh, he's really good. He probably is just maybe just a tad step behind these guys. So let's move into our vote tonight. Kevin, you are in my upper corner. Who are you taking?
And I can't vote for my own, huh, man?
Of course, can't vote for your own.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to go with Dempsey. I grew up watching Dempsey with Donovan, and Dempsey's a great player. I'm gonna go with Dempsey.
So I did my research on all three of these guys tonight, and there's not a lot that separates them. And I do think that Dempsey is the best of the three, but Donovan's name is the biggest. I said that earlier. He's got the biggest goals. He's got the biggest name. So I'm taking Donovan. Brian.
Yeah, I got to go with Donovan as well. I mean, he was when we went down the list, he was the first name that just jumped out at me, and like I said, what he's done on the world stage has been something.
Kyle, you can give us a tie, or you can vote for any of them. Who are you taking?
Going last is tough, of course, because I want to give so much respect to all these guys. If I would have gone first, though, I think I would have said Don, because big goals on the big stage. Like you said, big name in the game. And I think one of the points that I kind of brought up earlier in the earlier sections was what he did for U.S. soccer. And in the MLS specifically, of staying here, of playing so long, of holding the records. Obviously, he's got a lot of goals and things named after him, like the MVP award and all that. So, yeah, I think it's Donovan for me. Yeah.
So a win for Kevin. Congratulations. Let's pop some questions for Kyle here about his career so we can kind of simmer over what we were talking about there. So, Kyle, I just want to start you out here. So you're 32 years old. How many more years do you think that you still have in you? And how has your experience with Tampa been so far? We're based out of Tampa, so we like getting Tampa players on.
Yeah, no, 32. I think it's funny. Started back 2013, and my wife and I were just dating at the time and kind of doing the long distance, relationship stuff. And she was super happy for me. And how long do you think that you'll play? And like at that time, I was like, I think most guys like maybe like 5 years or like around that mark. And then now I've obviously been double that at least. And so I'm just we're at the stage where we're just taking it kind of 1 year at a time and just seeing when I think there'll be a clear indication of when it's time to hang them up, depending on, opportunities outside of soccer or how I'm feeling about playing. Because like at the end of the day, if my body's feeling good and, I'm enjoying it, I think that those are the two most important things. I'm enjoying it and my body's holding up. I don't want to be doing something that's going to affect, me playing with my kids and stuff as I get older. And at the end of the day, I play this game still because I like it. Because if I lose that passion, then I think it's time. And so none of those have come yet. Fortunately, I've been lucky with injuries, and I'm still enjoying it every day. It's easy to enjoy it while you're playing in a beautiful place like Tampa too. So that's a good segue into the Tampa thing. I mean, it's been awesome here. Obviously, not having to do preseason either at an indoor place or wearing the tights and the hats and the gloves and all that stuff. This is the first time I haven't had to deal with that. So it's been pretty awesome to kind of just be in a place where it's always soccer weather, regardless of it's 95 and humid, or I think preseason, the coldest day we had was like maybe 60 or something. So it's been awesome here. Great city, great, fan base and club. It takes care of its players well. And, the city rallies around all the sports teams here. So it's been pretty cool to experience that.
Go ahead, Kev.
All right. So sorry, I'm an OC season ticket member. And so I just wanted to ask you about I think it was the third round. You guys came over to Orlando for the U.S. Cup. What was it like playing against Orlando in their stadium? And I mean, Pato is a big name, for Orlando. What was it like being on the field with Pato and playing over there in Orlando?
Yeah, it was awesome. The stadium's unbelievable. That was the first time I've been to the stadium. I'd seen pictures. I think all the MLS stadiums, especially, the soccer specific ones that are popping up now, are just getting better and better and better. And so the venue itself was awesome. The pitch was amazing. Obviously the occasion was really cool too. 2 Florida teams within an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is playing against one another. And the game itself, like Orlando didn't score until the second half and it was off the penalty. And so I felt like there were moments in the game where we really controlled it and, stood toe to toe with them. So that was a good experience, especially for, the team's confidence, things like that. And then playing against really good players like Pato. It's funny because I wear number 22, which a lot of different things are the reason why I kind of wear that number if it's available when I join a team. My birthday's on the 22nd, and there's just kind of other little things throughout my life that have been 22. But I played with a Brazilian player in college, and he would call me Pato, not only because I wore number 22 because he was wearing that at Milan, but he said he felt like I played like Pato as well, and so it was kind of pretty surreal to see him out there, and yeah, it was just overall it was a really cool experience. I think obviously we would have liked to win, but I think there was a lot of positives to take out of that one for us.
So I saw on the YouTube channel, and I'm gonna add it in while you're answering this question. But the clip, tell me about your acrobatic off the back, down your calf, game winner against San Diego. You somehow kick it with the back of your leg, just absolutely outstanding. Tell me about that goal and just what you remember from the play.
Yeah, so I think what I remember most is, the months leading up to that goal. That was on May 20th, approximately of 2021. St. Louis, I had just finished playing with them for 3 years, and the club folded because the MLS team coming in and because of COVID. And so I really struggled as a 30-year-old at the time, going on 31, finding a club. And so I joined Louisville like really late. It was a really tough off season for me. I missed the whole preseason of last year, missed the first couple of games of the season, and so it was tough. Like I thought I was going to be being forced into retirement. A lot of doubt, a lot of negative thoughts creeping in constantly, and so training on your own, trying to stay motivated, things like that. Trying not to let my emotions affect my family and the people that I was around was really tough for me. And then I get a phone call on a Tuesday. On the Wednesday, I'm in Louisville, and then on the weekend, I'm subbing in to the game. And I just had a feeling. Ironically, it's against San Diego and Landon Donovan, which we've been talking about. And so, on that play, it's kind of a through ball to one of my teammates. Gets away from him, he slides, hits the ball off the keeper. Ball pops up in the air, and I'm just trying to head it toward the goal. And as I jump to header it, I kind of bump shoulders, which kind of throws me off balance. And I see the ball going behind me, and I just try to, keep it alive. And, my leg kind of curves up, and I call it, here's what I told you before the show was, I call it my skee ball goal, because, it's like the ramp of the skee ball, projects that ball. And so it kind of just goes down my hamstring, down the calf, and then flings toward the goal. And I'm a man of faith. And I think just there was some, you ever seen Angels in the Outfield?
Yeah.
That's what I call it too, is there was some divine intervention there for sure. And so just having that goal was the amount of emotion after that as well. And after the game, I was in tears and stuff just because it had been a really tough time for me. And yeah, it was a cool one for sure. I couldn't ever do that again if I tried,
Brian, we'll do Raina after this Q&A here. I'll edit all this out. That's fine. Do you have a question for Kyle?
I just want to know who were your sort of idols and inspirations whenever you were sort of growing up before you really got into soccer?
Just related to soccer or not related to soccer? Idols?
Just just sports idols, basically.
Well, my dad was a big he was not a famous sports guy at all, but he was a super athletic guy, played college basketball at University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. So I think he was my inspiration. I always looked up to my dad. He was, a fit guy as well, could still dunk, played in his men's league, basketball games and stuff that I would always go watch. So that was like my first memory of like looking up to an athlete was my dad. And then as far as on like the bigger stage of things, loved watching Michael Jordan play basketball. I think I watched a lot of basketball with my dad growing up, and it was definitely more accessible to watch, the NBA and things like that. I was also a big Kansas Jayhawks basketball fan as well. So liked watching a lot of those college players. But from a soccer side of things, like some of my earliest memories was like watching guys like, Brian McBride, Jay DeMeritt, kind of these guys who maybe weren't as naturally gifted as soccer players, but made a way to make a career out of their abilities and work ethic and things like that. I think, Brian McBride, just hard nosed, just getting stuck in, his eyes were all swollen in the games from just getting elbows and and things like that. I think those are some of my earliest memories of looking up to guys on the soccer field. I also remember, Kansas City Wizards when the MLS was so in its infancy still, going and watching those games at the Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium. And one of my club teammates, his dad worked for the news, and so he was working on the sports and always interviewing. And I got like Tony Meola's goalie gloves one time after the game from him, so that was a big memory for me. But a lot of those Wizards players, a lot of those kind of early era MLS guys were big inspirations for me. And to be honest, I never really had thought like these kids these days, like at 12 years old, I want to be a pro soccer player. Like I honestly didn't even think I want to be a pro soccer player until I was probably realistically like I can be and I want to be a pro soccer player, probably not until I was 20, which is pretty unheard of. I always thought like, yeah, I could be, it would be cool to be, but it wasn't like I have a chance to actually until I was about 20 to 21 years old. So that's a little bit of how my story began.
Kevin.
So I just have my question's more around just soccer in general in the U.S. It always seems that we're not, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but we're not getting over that hump. I mean, we've had stars like Beckham, Rooney, Ibrahimovic. Most recently, we got Cellini coming over, Bale's coming over. I heard Suarez is a possibility, and Lingard. Hector Herrera just played for Houston for his first game, and he said this is not an easy league. But for some reason, the popularity is still not quite where it needs to be here in the U.S. What's it going to take to get us over that hump, even with bringing these big names?
Yeah, that's a tough and tricky situation for me because, you want to raise the level in the MLS, right? You want to bring these big name stars to kind of raise not only the playing level, but the credibility. But I think what translates into growing the game as well is like giving the Americans a chance, to play at a high level as well. And so finding that balance is really important for me of bringing in quality talent and names while also developing your players in the domestic league. We can't always send our best players over at a young age to other leagues to then develop and then maybe come back over, So, and I think for me, that's a personal one because, I've spent a little bit of time in Vancouver and like, it does suck to have, like a DP come in and like, especially as a forward, there's not that many American forwards playing in the US or like getting good quality minutes. So, I think it's finding that balance, not bringing in the guy who's just going to overshadow another talent. It's tough though,
We need a homegrown star. We need, golf was kind of down and Tiger Woods came, made it bigger than it ever was. It was big, but then it went down and Tiger brought it back up. You got NBA, you got Jordan, just made it bigger. We need that homegrown star and someone who is more than just on the field, but someone who will like hit Hollywood and just make it big. That's what it needs, in my opinion, here in the United States. So, but we'll see how that goes down here. All right. Kyle, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate that, and we want to wish you continued success with Tampa Rowdies. Hopefully, you'll be around for a few seasons here. That'd be awesome to see.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, appreciate you having me on. It was fun. Nice to meet you all.
You too. Thank you again for coming on. I want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.